Hello, beautiful people. I hope that wherever you are in the world, that you are doing well and that you are taking care of yourselves. I'm Chris Danker, and this is Let the Adventure Begin. Let the Adventure Begin with Chris Danker podcast. Welcome to episode 131. And I want to start off by asking you a question, and this is going to be the basically the theme of the episode. And the question is, what is enough for me? I'm asking that because, if you listen to the last episode 130, it's on not making New Year's resolutions yet. And I talked about the reasoning for that, taking some time over the next couple of months to just kind of, marinate on some ideas rather than jumping right into them. And I think as an extension of that, I have really started doing some research and some looking into what it means to live slowly. In fact, I put on a recent reel that I'm in my slow living era. And I think that's resonating with people because I have a small platform and it got over 1,000 views, which is really good for a reel for me. And so I think that the concept of slow living is really been taking hold for a lot of people. And this idea also spread for me, and this is kind of like where I want to really the crux of this question, what is enough for me, came about through an article I read by Rosa Diaz-Casal called Attaining Financial Freedom Through Slow Living. I am one who has always struggled with finances. And I'm not really sure why. I'm one of those people who's been very fortunate to have always had my basic needs met. I've never had a worry about, where my next meal is coming from. Am I going to be able to pay rent or a mortgage? Do I have a vehicle to drive? Can I put money in the bank? All of those questions that when you can answer yes to, you're among the 8% wealthiest people in the world. And so I know that I am coming from a place of privilege. With that being said, I have always personally, though, struggled with money. If there, from the time I was a kid and I could earn some money, through allowance or my first jobs, if there was money in my pocket, there was a hole burning in it, and I spent it as soon as I got it. I have no idea where that came from. It's just something that I know I married the right man because I am the spender in the family. He is the saver. I have often told our kids that are adults that I am their inheritance now. And I said, your dad will be your inheritance when we die, because I am just a person who, if I have it, for the most part, I'm going to spend it. And I've always been good theoretically about budgeting. Like, I have this great spreadsheet. I have my bills. I keep tabs on everything, and then I promptly overspend. And so I'm like, I always tell myself something's got to change. And so when I read Rosa's piece on attaining financial freedom through slow living, there's a lot that's really starting to connect for me. And I asked her for permission to use what she talked about in her article in this podcast episode. And I'm also going to link it in the show notes so that you can go and read it for yourself. I love the quote that she uses from Henry David Thoreau, and it says this: "The cost of a thing is the amount of life which must be exchanged for it." That nothing is free, and every time we buy something, we have paid the price for it in some way. We think about okay, how many hours do I have to work in order to buy this thing? And so I really like this quote by Henry David Thoreau that she used, because that really kind of sets the table for thinking about how, we use our finances and how we're spending our money. She talks about starting with, tracking our finances. Like I said, I do that, and I have cut back in a lot of different areas as far as, subscriptions and things. But for me, a lot of it, like I said, I go overboard in terms of giving and helping out whenever and wherever I can, even if it means I've overspent. And so there are two primary goals that I have for 2025. One is to completely pay off debt. This is great, but it's also like, I fell for it. That my bank offers extend pay. So for a small fee each month, you can lump together certain amounts of money that you can put them together and then pay off over a certain period of time. And then there's just a small fee each month, rather than having to worry about a huge percentage of having to pay each month that you don't pay off your credit card. And so I am doing that, but in doing so, I accumulated quite a bit of debt. So 2025 is going to be my year of, paying off those extend pays and not accumulating more. The other thing that I'm going to do is that I have parent loans for my two kids that I still have. And my plan is to have those paid off by December 2026. So those are two like big picture kinds of things. And sometimes it's hard to think about the day to day within that big picture. So, like I said, I have those two big picture things, but sometimes those can get lost. And so there are some things that I decided to do with my budgeting on my spreadsheet that are suddenly making more sense to me. And I'm like, oh, and if I break it down like I'm going to share with you, then I really think it's going to be helpful. I am an educator. I've been in education my entire life. So this is year number 31 for me. So I've always operated from being paid once a month, which I know is really unfathomable for a lot of people, that if they're paid once a week or once every 2 weeks, I will often get, how do you do that to be able to, have your money spread out for the entire month? And many times I have to be very transparent and say, I don't do it very well. But what I've done, and it's one of those where it's like, why didn't I think about this much sooner? I have taken my bills and I have broken them down into 4 weeks. And so then each week that different bills come out, I have added those bills up. And so it's like, okay, this is how much is going to be coming out of my account this week. And then the same for week 2, week 3, week 4. The bills aren't the problem. It's making sure that I'm within my spending limits in groceries and the extras that pop up. That's a lot of times where I really go wrong. And so because of that, I'm writing them down and making sure that I'm paying attention to where that money is going. And I will say, and the other thing that you have to think about with education is that it's not like we get paid at the beginning of the month and then we go through that month and then it's to the end. For me, I get paid on the 15th. So, I got paid on the 15th of January. I get paid again on the 15th of February. So it's kind of like half of one month and half into the next month. So it's kind of a mess. It's kind of a hot mess. And so I think that's for me why I had a lot of head trash and really trying to figure this out. So by breaking it down into week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4 with my expenses, that seems to be working well for me so far. So that instead of looking at a spreadsheet that has all the bills for that entire month, 15th of one month to the 15th of the next month, I'm now breaking it down week by week. And it's like, these are the bills coming out, or these are the ones that I need to pay. And like I said, within that, having that budget for those expenditures like groceries and anything extra, those are, I have those spread out over the 4 weeks as well. And so that has really been benefiting me. And I go back and I look at it quite often. I'm obsessed with it in some ways, because I go and I look at it every day or two, but it's also forcing me to then be more accountable to it. And that if I have an expenditure and I'm telling myself that I have to write it down, then again, it's making me more accountable and more responsible, because of the fact that I have to be transparent to myself. So I really, a couple of things I talked a lot about that whole tracking of finances and seeing where our money goes. And it's very easy to track those bills that come out every month. We plan for those. It's the little things that creep up. It's going out for a lunch, or, ooh, I see this cute sweater online. I'm going to buy that because it's only one sweater and it's 60% off. This is a great deal. And going and getting coffee, or, all of a sudden, ooh, there's a gift that I want to get someone. And each one of those is little in and of themselves, but then when you write them all down and then you're adding them all up, that's when it's like, oh my gosh, what have I just done? Overspent once again. So it's making that commitment to really write down those things that pop up, and then that kind of slows us down, that whole idea of slow living. So, it's also what she talks about in her article is that, being responsible in a global sense. How do my choices impact the environment? Being more intentional with, where our dollars are going. A company that I like to buy some clothing items from, it's called Pact. I will share a link to them in the show notes. I've gotten a few clothing items from their company because for several reasons, and a lot of it having to do with the environment. And you're going to pay a little more, but the quality and knowing that it's reducing my carbon footprint is a really big draw. And when you're not buying fast fashion and you're buying quality items, they're going to last a lot longer as well. Plus, a few times a year, they have really good deals going on, sales going on as well. So looking in a place that if you're ever looking for, like I said, I have used Pact as a place where I buy different things. There's a newsletter called The Good Trade, and they will often have different places to buy from who are very environmentally conscious. Again, I will put their website in the show notes so that you can go and check them out. But that is a great resource for finding those companies that are really looking out for our environment. Because, every dollar that we spend is a vote for the world that we want to live in. And we really need to, pay better attention to that. So that is something that I'm paying attention to as well. Really, financial freedom is a deeply personal choice. We don't want to just work to survive. We want to work to be able to thrive. And thriving is being able to slow down and to ask ourselves that question, what is enough for me? And I'm really starting to find that enough for me is not about the things. It's more about the experiences. It's more about really just being able to live simply and being content with what I have. So I just wanted to share that with you. Like I said, I'm going to put Rosa's article in the show notes so that you can go and read it for yourself. Since I mentioned PACT, I will also put their website in the show notes, as well as the Good Trade, because a lot of good stuff that can help you if you are thinking about, hey, how might I move toward a slow living lifestyle in terms of, not having that frenetic pace of when, like I said, when I was a kid and I had that money burning a hole in my pocket. How can we slow down and ask ourselves the question, what is enough for me, and to be able to confidently answer it? So I hope you are doing well. I hope that you let your adventure begin. And until next week, peace.